Hey, sorry for the re-upload, but the last one that I did had audio that was a disaster, and I really wanted this video to be something that was listenable. So I recently watched this interview with Jordan Peterson on Vice, and it got a considerable amount of downvotes. I'll show you what it looks like over here. And you can see that 36,000 downvotes, 7K upvotes, and you can see from the first 100 or 1,000 comments that a lot of people seem to be unhappy with the way they edited it. And if you watch the video from 6 minutes and 3 seconds, and then you watch the change from 6 minutes and 3 seconds to 6 minutes and let's say 7 seconds, you can tell where they skipped out on a lot of content where they were purposely likely antagonizing him, since this was a 2-hour interview and they released 6 minutes of it.
Deteriorating very rapidly at the moment in terms of the relationships between men and women.
Is there sexual harassment in the workplace? Yes.
You don't have to be a genius to see that they did something silly there, and I suggest you watch the entire interview for yourself. Now, I'm not going to get into a critique of the interview because hundreds and thousands of people are doing that, likely far better than I am. What I'd like to focus on is the character of the individuals and the company behind this piece of garbage that they call journalism. So, for those of you who haven't watched the channel very long, I received an offer to be on a television show that was hosted by Vice about 2 years ago. And I just wanted to go over some of the fun parts of this contract so that we can really give you an idea of the content and quality of the character of the company and the people who work there. About 2 or 3 times, someone had showed up to my office showing interest in the idea of me being on their program. And the third time, I finally had a sit down with one of them, and I spoke with someone from Vice for about 2 hours. What they did is they sent me this contract in response, and I like to go through it just so you can have some idea of the content of their character and whether or not they negotiate or deal in good faith when debating whether or not the edits that were done to that 2-hour interview to make it down to somewhere like 3 to 6 minutes were edits made in good faith. So let's just look at some of the content that we have here. So the first part that's interesting in this contract is where it says that I need to furnish them with all of the equipment. So if you look at the description, if you look at the links below, you'll see that in many of my videos, I've got a list of the equipment that I use, and that adds up to somewhere between, depending on whether or not I bring everything I have, it adds up to somewhere between $3,000 and $10,000 if I were to decide to bring everything. I had at the time a $600 or $700 hot air station, $500 of soldering, somewhere between $500 to $1,000 of soldering equipment, $900 4K television, $1,000 microscope and camera. It goes on and on and on, all the stuff that I have in my desk. And I would have to repurchase all of that to provide for them. $1,500 an episode, and I was told that they were looking to do somewhere between 9 to 15 episodes. Now, I'll let you do the math of 9 to 15 times 1,500, and you tell me if that sounds like a great salary to be in New York. Now, if we were to go ahead further, I know what you're thinking. Hey, I wouldn't mind getting that amount of money if I could add that to what I'm already making. That sounds great, except for the fact that I can't. If you look over here, it says that I would not be allowed to upload to my YouTube channel without speaking directly to them first. And while in the beginning, they seemed to not care at all about me uploading to YouTube, when I spoke after reading this contract, they say they were very hawkish on me being able to upload to my own channel anymore. And this contract would mean that I would be barred, if they said so, from being able to upload to my current channel, which would then destroy that stream of revenue. That's the word I'm looking for. Now, if we go ahead to some other parts here, we can also see that one of the ways that I make money is by those affiliate links down below. So just in interest of full disclosure, in case you don't like me and you don't want to see me make money, if you click those links below to check out the equipment that I use and buy something on Amazon, anything on Amazon at all, I will get 3 to 12% of the proceeds of your purchase. That is a stream of revenue for me, and that's a stream of revenue that, just like YouTube, it's a small one, but these things add up, and that's a stream of revenue that would be taken away. As can be read here, I shall not receive any additional compensation for use of such tools, nor shall artists endorse any brand or mark, whether it be on camera or social media, as defined below. I spoke with an attorney prior to publishing my first video, and they said very clearly, this clause of the contract could be used to say that you would no longer be allowed to do any affiliate linking. So I would have to remove those links from my videos and then remove a second stream of income, which, depending on whether people click the links below, can be significant or not. Now, if we were to go on to the rest of this, you may say, well, that's even though it's not a lot of money, that's still decent, right? You don't get guaranteed income from YouTube or affiliate links. Well, actually, this isn't guaranteed either. No obligation to proceed. Artist acknowledges and agrees that Vice shall be under no obligation to actually utilize artist services and/or results, and that they should be free to develop the project with additional and/or replacement talent. This means that they would be willing, they would be allowed to do a single episode of this television show with me, and then decide, you know what, we don't want to use you anymore. So, sorry about that. Here's where it hits the fan and becomes completely ridiculous. I'm just going to replace the word artist with me so that it makes more sense. Lewis agrees to pay Vice 10% royalties of any and all gross amounts received and/or credited to Lewis in connection with the use of Lewis's services, likeness, or name, or in connection with producing, writing, endorsing, or sponsoring, or appearing in any product, merchandise, promotion, etc., etc. And I actually discussed this with an attorney before doing my first video. That could be used to say, hey, Rossman Repair Group, that's Louis Rossman's company. He's using his name there. Then that's his business, and those are his services, and that's his likeness. Well, every time you sell Flux, we get 10%. Every time a new subscriber shows up on my forum and Duke answers a question, that $29 a month, we get 10%. Every time Lewis fixes something and charges $200, we get 10%. You see where this is ridiculous, that a company that I've had for the last 5-7 years, now I just owe this new company 10% of all the revenue that I make using my likeness because I signed this contract. So let's just get this straight. I would pay upfront about $5,000 to $10,000 to buy all the equipment needed to do a show. They would then pay me $1,500 an episode for about 9 to 13 episodes, around there. I would then not be allowed to do any of my affiliate marketing, which makes me money. I would not be allowed to upload further videos to YouTube, which makes me money. They don't have to do the show with me. They can at any time decide we're going to have somebody else do the show and stop paying you, while at the same time, for about 1 to 2 years after I sign this, 2 years, the date is 2 years following the initiation of the contract, that they have a right to 10% of my pre-existing business. Does this sound like negotiating in good faith? Does this sound like the contract written by honest people that I spent 2 hours having a discussion with, going over requirements, concerns, and what it is I had to offer and what it is they had to offer? Does this sound like that? I don't think it does. I think this sounds like a complete pile of, and I hate using this commie word, exploitation. This is a clear-cut example of manipulation, deception, and a clear-cut attempt at exploitation. That didn't work, but this is how they operate. This is how their legal department operates. This is how the people that reach out to new content creators operate. And when I look at how it is they handled this interview with Jordan Peterson, it's very clear that that's how they're interviewing. That's how they interview people. And that's also how their editing department conducts itself as well. It's a company culture from top down that very clearly, obviously, is totally okay with just screwing people. And you see it in a lot of what they say. They very clearly are okay saying things that are not true. They say things, their journalists are happy to say things that are not true as if they are true, and they often get away with it, like right here. Not true. Absolutely not true. Jessa even points out very clearly, not true. And this is just whipping us into a frenzy in society of very hyper-polarized people that are misinformed, that are programmed to think that these terrible things are happening, that these evil people are against us on both sides, when there is actually a much more nuanced discussion of the issues that should be going on. So, what should we take from all of this? I think we all play an important role in discrediting these outlets that do a disservice to their viewers. And I know people are going to say, how dare you try and undermine and discredit our institutions of journalism? No, you don't get to play the high ground stuff. These institutions have been discrediting themselves on every side for a very long time. This whole idea where we're going to play, somebody's going to be on screen and telling you what somebody else said, that's why I don't watch the news anymore. I reject that in its entirety. When, this reminds me of these times in the pre-Middle Ages when people were not able to read, so they would have to go to somebody else who would interpret what religious texts were saying for them. And you can imagine this led to quite a bit of deception and manipulation, very similar to what's going on now. When I'm listening to someone on the screen tell me what another person said, I don't take that at face value. I reject that in its entirety. I want to hear the source material. I want I want the context. I want everything. And we are at a time where, when it comes to media, you can have everything. This is a website right here where anybody can, from a blue phone, hit upload or hit live stream and have a conversation with somebody and share and host that conversation to millions of people in real time. And it doesn't cost them a dime. This is very unique, and this is a tool that I think we're just now starting to realize the power of. These types of conversations you see here, this crap that you see on Fox News or MSNBC, where you have guests come on and throw shit at each other for 2 minutes to try to get the other person to say something stupid so they can say they won. That's not how you talk about important subjects. That's not how we delve in to topics that affect millions of people in society. Because when you try to reduce these important conversations to 2 to 3 minute interrupt fests where people are just smashing each other, it doesn't work. It just polarizes people more. It makes people angry. It keeps people uninformed, and it's obsolete. This entire system was based on a time when time was very valuable because one network could not broadcast more than one thing at a time. This is very obsolete. This is based on 1940s to 1980s nonsense. We have distribution networks now where you can broadcast hundreds of thousands of discussions simultaneously, and they can be as long as you want. There's no limit anymore. You don't have to shove everything and cram it into this little box, because when we exist in a time where you need to cram these discussions into these little 3-minute clips so that it'll fit along with every other piece of programming. You allow people that have an ideological agenda to filter through what it is you see through the prism of their ideological agenda. And that's what happens on Fox. That's what happens on MSNBC. That's what's happening on Vice here. And it's incredibly intellectually dishonest, but it's also a disservice to you. There are many independent outlets that allow you to watch full 1 to 2 to 3 hour interviews and debates with people that they disagree with intensely. We saw that last year at the political conferences. You didn't watch Cenk from Young Turks versus Ben Shapiro for 20 seconds where one said something silly and they take it out of context. You got to watch the whole 1 hour long thing. You got to watch this and you would take away something from it. There would be a nuanced discussion. You would have things to learn. You would have things to Google, and you would come away from it not feeling like it was just some little arm wrestling match that one person totally won and left. This is not helping us have real discussions with each other. And when I see that these types of things are happening at Vice, all I have to think to myself is, okay, well, was it an accident or is this what they usually do? And I look back to my contract and I show you what they showed me, and I remember my conversations with them, and they're shady people. They're dishonest. They're very dishonest, very deceptive, very manipulative, and very, I hate to use it, it's the commie word, but very exploitative of the people that are their viewers and of the people that they work with. That's what happened over here. 3 to 6 minutes of a 2-hour interview. Does that sound honest to you? And what I'm really happy about is that people saw through it for the BS that it was. I think that maybe 10 or even 5 years ago, people would have watched something like this and went, wow, I can't believe he said that. That's terrible. Oh my God. But when you read through the comments here, you can see that almost every comment is, so what you're saying is, here we go again. Where's the rest of the interview? Every single one of these comments is just smashing them for only showing a portion of the interview. People are waking up. Because here's the thing with Jordan Peterson. Whether or not you agree with him, people were introduced to Jordan Peterson by hearing these 30-minute to 2-hour-long clips and lectures from him. So people got used to a proper diet. When people were introduced to Jordan Peterson, they got used to the proper diet of hearing everything that a commentator said and the full drawn-out interview or debate. So then when you give them the McDonald's or the KFC of this 3-minute hyper-edited bullshit, they realize it. When you get people used to KFC or McDonald's, okay, fine, they'll be okay with KFC and McDonald's. Once you start feeding people real food, real cooking, then they go to KFC and McDonald's and are like, what the hell is this shit? And the same thing I think happened here. People who would have otherwise viewed this and said this is normal, once you got them used to the 2 to 3 hour conversations, to the nuanced conversations with people all over the ideological spectrum with all different political views that he's spoken with, when you get to hear those discussions fleshed out where things are not taken out of context or hyper-edited, and then you watch this garbage, people realize this shit for what it is. This is the McDonald's of media. This is the, this is the $1 pizza of political and ideological discussion. And everybody saw through it. 7,000 likes, over 30,000 dislikes. I mean, the worst video I've ever done on YouTube in my history, the worst, absolute worst one, had something like 100 dislikes less than likes. I mean, people saw through this. Everybody saw through this. And I think you all can see through this too. So what do we do going forward? How do we take power away from these establishments that seek to lie and screw over people and manipulate people for their own agendas? Well, what we do is we stop giving them power by not watching their shows. We stop subscribing to these shows. We stop buying these crappy newspapers. We stop watching and paying for television that's telling us what someone else is saying with an ideological bent. We go to the source. We watch the content. We watch the full interview. Go to YouTube where you can support content creators directly that are real journalists. I mean, whether or not I agree with some individuals, I'll watch some things by Tim Pool where he'll talk about what both sides do, and he'll travel around the world and have real discussions and actually look things up and show you what he sees. Don't always have to just agree with him to like and respect the fact that some of what he does is really good journalism. There are lots of people on YouTube that will sit down and have a 1 to 3 hour discussion with somebody or a 1 to 3 hour debate with somebody, and they'll often even do it live. There'll be a live debate so that you can see the comments from people, and then after they watch the debate, they'll take comments from the audience and then use that to create further discussion. And you leave that feeling truly fed. You leave that feeling truly intellectually nourished. But when you leave crap like this, I watch MSNBC or Fox News or Vice. I read these articles in Salon, and I feel dirty. I feel like taking a shower. It's awful. And this is what we do. Just stop giving them clicks, stop giving them advertising revenue. And one of these days, these advertisers are going to look on independent media, and they're going to look at this and say, all the real discussions are happening over there. And people kind of got sick and tired of watching this, so they're all over there. So why don't we advertise over there with the independent content creators? Support independent content creators. Stop supporting this crap. And if the independent content creators starts to do the same bullshit that the old traditional media does, stop supporting them too. Let's put our money, our time, our eyeballs, and our resources into people who are dedicated to pursuing the truth rather than people who are dedicated to manipulation and peddling bullshit. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. And if you're looking to do a TV series with Vice, don't.